Mohamed Morsi has been forced to flee his Cairo residence by a wild mob demanding an end to his rule. Riot police have struggled to keep crowds from storming the leader's palace and fired tear gas at protesters. Belle True has been at the heart of the action. She joins me live now from Cairo. What's happening where you are, Belle?
Well, at the moment I'm just above Tahrir Square, where there are also mass protests happening. I don't know if you can see behind me or here, but there are tens of thousands of people chanting against the constitution, which was obviously pushed through recently, and also against the president. I just came from the presidential palace, where as we arrived at the presidential palace we were attacked by police with tear gas, quite a lot of tear gas. It was very strong. And I do believe that the president has in fact left the palace, although I'm unsure exactly the reason why he did leave. For the groups that I could see there, there were families there protesting, as well as grandparents, older members. So it wasn't so much of a mild, sort of wild mob, as I think some people are seeing it. I actually saw one mother carrying her son, who was probably no more than 7 years old, out of the tear gas because he'd collapsed. So they're still there right now, tens of thousands of them chanting against the president in front of his palace, as well as here on Tahrir Square.
By what you're saying, it sounds as if he wasn't actually in danger, but is there any sign of where he's gone?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I personally don't believe he was in danger. I mean, I was there with the crowds as we were tear-gassed. And in fact, the police stopped tear-gassing us and at one point asked for protection, or a section of police asked for protection. So there was actually a protester human chain around the section of these black-clad police officers on the corner, although I'm not sure if that was widespread amongst all the police outside the presidential palace. And as I left, the scenes had calmed down and people were really just chanting against the president. He has left the presidential palace. We have yet to know whether that was actually a usual thing for him to do in the evening, or whether he left because of the crowds and the pressure. What I do know is that people are not backing down, and what people are saying, and it was written on the banners, is that this is the final warning. The people are giving him one last chance to back down on his power grab, to perhaps sort out this constitution, which widely people see as illegitimate and void, and written by Islamist-dominated assembly, and really put things right for the nation.
So what about those who are supporting him? The pro-government force in Egypt is very strong, isn't it? What have you heard from them? How are they reacting?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we shouldn't forget that, of course, the president hails from an organisation, the Muslim Brotherhood, who has a huge amount of members across the country and do actually award him a lot of support, as we've seen in televised rallies on Saturday. In particular, we saw rallies in Cairo, Alexandria and other major cities across the country. The president, of course, has the support of these groups and also ultra-Orthodox groups like the Salafists. So we shouldn't underestimate that there are people here in Egypt who do want him to remain in power. However, it's hard to tell the numbers, about just how strong they are, because they're very organised. So in these rallies, they tend to bus people in. In addition, there has been a lot of dissent from key sectors like the journalist syndicates, who went on strike today. There was at least 11 different, well, not the syndicate itself, but 11 different newspapers went on strike today, in addition to the judges as well. So he's facing pressure from different sectors as well as people on the streets. So really, it's yet to be seen how strong this opposition is and whether they are actually going to push to the end and ask for him to leave office.
Belle, thanks a lot for that latest update there from Cairo. Belle True reporting for our team. Human rights activist Shima Helmi, I spoke to her a little earlier in Cairo. She says that the protests in Egypt are a continuation of the country's uprising.
I think that we have reached a sad state of polarization between different factions here. There are lots of Islamists who are also opposing the Muslim Brotherhood and what they're doing, in addition to the liberals and leftists.
So you're saying there's all factions, all elements of society involved in those protests that we're seeing?
Well, yeah, to some degree I can say this, but still it's not the opinion of the general population. We had also protests coming to support Morsi's decree in different parts of the country, in addition to the protests that are opposing him.
You're a human rights activist. What are you worried about now in present-day Egypt? How different are things since Mubarak went? Are you still campaigning avidly? Are there still major concerns there happening in Egypt?
Well, from the beginning of the uprising, I was concerned with the military trials for civilians and the detentions and abuse and torture cases that activists went through from the beginning of the uprising and until recently. On the rights level, I think that the situation has not changed that much. Some things have changed, of course, but it's not what we have been expecting. In 2 years, you can't say that we have had a revolution and finished it. At the moment, the opposition camp includes revolutionaries who are not satisfied with the Muslim Brotherhood, in addition to anti-revolutionaries who are also against the Muslim Brotherhood. So I don't want to call this a second wave of the revolution or a second revolution. It's a continuity to what we have started already back in January 2011.